Why quiet men listen more than they speak and what they hear. If you've ever sat in a meeting, watched three people talk past each other for 20 minutes, mapped the actual decision in your head before any of them got there and said nothing because nobody asked, this video is for you. Not because you're shy, because the room wasn't built for what your silence was already doing. And almost nobody, in 58 years, has bothered to explain to you what that was. For most quiet men in their 50s, this isn't a personality quirk. It's not introversion the way Susan Cain meant it. It's not shyness. It's something closer to a protocol. A way of moving through social reality that almost deserves its own field of study. Today we're looking at the psychology of quiet men, why they listen more than they speak, and what they're actually hearing in the room while everyone else is competing to be heard. Robin Dunbar is the evolutionary anthropologist who gave us Dunbar's number, the cognitive limit of stable relationships, at about 150. In 1996, he published a book called Grooming, Gossip, and the Evolution of Language. He argued something that should change how you sit through every meeting. Human language didn't evolve to convey truth. It evolved to do what other primates do by picking lice off each other for hours a day, bonding at scale. Most of what gets said in a room full of humans isn't information, it's grooming. Compliments at the office. Weekend updates by the coffee machine. The conversation about the weather. It's not stupid, it's adaptive. It's what kept our ancestors from being knifed in their sleep. But here's what nobody tells the quiet man at 58 who barely speaks in meetings. He's not bad at conversation. He's just bad at grooming. Those are different things. Last spring I worked with a man named Daniel, 58. Senior architect at a firm in Chicago. They've designed 3 of the buildings you've walked past in any Midwestern downtown. Married to Carol for 28 years. 2 adult kids, both gone from the house. He'd been at the firm so long they'd promoted him twice by people he never lobbied. His reputation around the office. Daniel says less than anyone in the room and somehow knows everything. I sat in on one of his late career meetings. A junior architect, bright, ambitious, mid-30s, spent 40 minutes presenting his solution to a structural problem. A problem Daniel had already solved in his head in the first 90 seconds. Daniel didn't interrupt. He didn't help. He took exactly 1 note in a leather notebook he keeps in his jacket pocket. The meeting ended in deadlock. Walking to his car alone in the parking garage, Daniel texted the answer to the project lead. The project unblocked the next morning. Nobody mentioned Daniel's name in the credits email. Daniel didn't notice because he wasn't looking for it. Some details have been changed for privacy. Daniel is drawn from patterns I've observed across many men I've known. But the architecture of his silence, that's the part most people get wrong. Deborah Tannen is a sociolinguistics professor at Georgetown. She spent 30 years studying how men and women use language differently. Her 1,990 book You Just Don't Understand coined 2 terms most quiet men recognize the moment they hear them. Report, talk, and report talk. Most men speak the way Tannen calls report talk. Language for transferring information, establishing position, marking what you know. Most women speak the way she calls rapport talk, language for building connection, sharing experience, weaving intimacy. Neither is better. They're different operating systems running on the same hardware, which means when your wife asks how your day was and you say, fine, she's not hearing a report. She's hearing a refusal to groom. And when you give her the real answer, the 20-minute one, you're trying to deliver information she experiences as overload. The mismatch isn't because one of you doesn't love the other. And it isn't about her not understanding you. It's about both of you running scripts neither of you was ever taught to read. Nobody told you you were running cross-cultural communication every night at the dinner table for the last 25 years. So let me make a distinction that took me longer than I'd like to admit. Speaking and talking, those are different things. Talking is grooming. It's the rhythm a group uses to confirm everyone's still in the tribe. Speaking is something else. Speaking is when something inside you has crossed a threshold that says, this needs to be said. Into this room, right now. Most men learn by 50 that talking and speaking aren't interchangeable. Most rooms haven't. 3 pieces so far. Language evolved as grooming, not information. Men and women run different communication protocols. Speaking and talking are not the same act. Hold those. Because what comes next is the part that almost nobody in 58 years has ever named for you. If you've made it this far, you're the kind of man I make these videos for somebody who'd rather think for 20 minutes than be entertained for 2. More like this every week. Subscribe if that's you. Now let me tell you what quiet men are actually hearing in that room. Quiet men aren't doing nothing in the room. They're doing 4 things at once. At a level of resolution the people doing the talking can't see because they're too busy generating output. 4 layers. I'm going to name them, because nobody ever named them for me. And naming them changes how you sit in the next meeting. Layer 1. Contradictions across time. The quiet man tracks the thing somebody said 20 minutes ago that contradicts what they just said now. He's not keeping score. He's trying to figure out which version of the person is the real one. Most people in the room have already forgotten the earlier version. He hasn't. That's why he doesn't trust the resolution they reach at the end. Then there's the energy debt of the room. Who's giving more than they have? Who's performing fine? Who looked at the clock 3 times in the last 10 minutes? Who hasn't spoken because they're tired, and who hasn't spoken because nobody asked? Loud people read the room by who's making the most noise. Quiet men read the room by who's gone quiet. Here's the one most people miss: what's not being said. The agenda item carefully moved into the discussion's blind spot. The decision that was already made before the meeting started that everyone's pretending to debate. The compliment somebody's father never gave them, that they're still trying to earn from a boardroom 40 years later. Quiet men hear all of that. Most of them can't tell you how. Their wife thinks it's a personality flaw. The board calls it strategic. And underneath all of that, status moves between speakers. Who's deferring to whom without saying so? Whose voice tightened when somebody more senior walked in? Whose joke landed because of position, not because it was funny? Quiet men aren't moralizing about it. They're noticing it the way a mechanic notices a bad bearing, because if you don't know it's there, it'll kill you later. Here's the developmental piece nobody tells you. A 2017 corpus analysis by Moscoso del Prado Martin found something about male speakers. Starting around 45, they begin showing measurably reduced syntactic diversity, less elaborate sentences, fewer rhetorical flourishes. It's not decline, and it's the opposite of what's happening in women the same age. It's pruning. You may have felt it. The sentences you use to perform the ones you arranged like furniture in your 20s to get hired, get the second date, get the corner office. Those sentences feel embarrassing to you now. You catch yourself starting a sentence the way you used to in your 30s, and you stop halfway through because you can hear yourself performing. That moment, that's the pruning. The psychologist Erik Erikson called the stage between 40 and 65 generativity, the virtue of which, he said, is care. Quiet men in their 50s aren't running out of words. They're running out of patience for sentences that don't carry their weight. The selectivity is the developmental task, not the symptom. There's a mechanic named Frank, 57, runs his own shop in suburban Ohio, grandfather of 3. He told me something I think about every time I'm in a loud room. Customers come in stressed, trying to describe a sound their car is making. They use the wrong vocabulary. They guess. They half-correct themselves. Frank lets them finish. Then he just says, "Let's go." He walks them to the car, listens to it run for 30 seconds, diagnoses it. He'll tell you, if you ask. People can't describe what's wrong. The car can, if you stop talking long enough to let it. That's the thing nobody ever tells the silent man in his 50s. You weren't supposed to be doing what they were doing. You were supposed to be doing this. You were never bad at conversation. You were never a project for someone to fix. You were the one in the room who'd already finished the thinking they hadn't started yet. And the world mistook your quiet for absence because it had forgotten what presence looks like when it isn't making noise. Right now, notice your shoulders. Notice if your jaw is set. Notice if you've been holding your breath without realizing it. That's the body of a man who's been carrying language for the room since he was about 23. Around the year 125 of the Common Era, a former slave named Epictetus wrote down one sentence. "I'd love every quiet man over 50 to put it somewhere he sees it daily." He wrote, "Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary, and in few words. For most of your life, you've been told that your silence is the problem, that you should talk more, open up more, engage more, that you'd be more successful if you were more like the loud ones. By 58, you've probably done the math. The loud ones aren't winning. They're just performing more. You aren't withdrawn. You're calibrated. The silence isn't arrogance, it's bandwidth. The depth isn't a flaw, it's the architecture you built when nobody was watching. The economy of your speech isn't austerity. It's the discipline of a man who learned, somewhere between 30 and 50, that words are expensive and most rooms haven't earned them. You're not the problem. You're the proof that there's still room in the world for men who think this deeply before they answer. That's the only thing I wanted you to leave with tonight. If this landed somewhere real, that's what the subscribe button is for. It tells the algorithm there's still an audience for men who think before they answer. In the comments, tell me one room past or present where your silence was the most accurate thing you brought into it. I read every one. And on the screen now, 2 videos that go deeper into what we talked about tonight. One about what deep thinkers never explain to others, and where this conversation continues. Pick whichever speaks to you.